Hello, viewers of OBN Horn of Africa. Today, I'm joining by Dr. Bejamin Anyagree from Ghana. He is from Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute, and he is immediate executive director in that institute. And thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Benjamin. Welcome to Future Africa program.
Very much, and greetings to your audience.
Well, recently, as you may hear, the Ethiopian government has released or freed some opposition political leaders, including Jawar Mohammed. And it was also heard that the government is calling for inclusive national dialogue to bring, national consensus. And how do you see this initiative?
I think I have to congratulate Prime Minister Abiy and his government for what they have done, because the issue in Ethiopia was highly a political issue. And so if some of the political prisoners have been released and calling for an all-inclusive type of system where each and individual will participate in the governance of Ethiopia, it is a very good one, because as a good leader is the type that calls for inclusiveness, that calls for unity, that calls for talents and people with competence and expertise to come together to build a nation. And I think Ethiopia was founded on an all-inclusive type of traditional systems, which has evolved over time. And so that has to be continued. And so I think it is a wise decision. It is something very good that the government has decided to take this step.
Do you think Africa is effectively using its indigenous knowledge to solve its internal problem? For instance, Ethiopians have a Gada system, which is a democratic, indigenous system of governance used by the Oromo people here in Ethiopia. The Oromo people is the largest ethnic group in the country. And what do you say about it again?
Yes, it's quite interesting. And I think before Africa was invaded by colonialists, Africa had her own system of government. Africa had her own system of doing things, which it was done with an all-embracing character. It was done with an all-inclusive sense of approach. It was done with people using that indigenous type of governance system to even solve problems, complex issues, challenges. And so I think even going back to that system is the best for many African states, because it has been a system that has been practiced generation upon generation. It has been effective, and it is still working in so many places. And it is evident to the fact that in such places, they use that system as an effective alternative dispute resolution, solving so many problems, and then giving peace and stability and coexistence to a particular community. And so I am currently working on Africa's own democracy, and we are looking at all types of the Oroma system, which is still very effective and good for Africa. In Burkina Faso, we have a system called Mognab Yibo. Mognab Yibo is a system like the Oroma system, the egalitarian system, the Ubuntu system, the R&B system, where people come together and look at the society and look at the socioeconomic issues, and then see how they can foster energies, talent, and then to try to solve those problems. And so many of the problems happening in Africa with the Western type of democracy isn't good, because it has been injected with a lot of tension, a lot of confusion, a lot of deaths, civil unrest. And so I think comparing to the Roma system, if we are able to go back to our roots, to our indigenous system of governance, Africa will make inroads. And let me be frank with you, it is a system that is full of harmony, the principles of harmony. You know, you take into consideration, a typical example is the Chinese system. They have used their own system and they have been able to evolve and they are moving from one level to another. We should not use an important ideological democratic system. Once we begin to use it, because it doesn't fit into our system, we see so many problems and challenges because it is not homegrown. Thank you.
In your opinion, what is the position of African intellectuals should be in defending their own, identities and reviving such kind of indigenous knowledge, researching on it, mobilizing their own people, and so on and so forth?
Yes, to me, I see it to be very important for the intelligentsia in Africa to go back to our roots. We have tried a democratic system that isn't working so much for us. A democratic system that has its roots from the indirect rule system of colonialism, till date, where you have a group of people who, when they take over power, they don't encourage inclusiveness, and so it is good for the intellectual, the academia, the universities to begin to dig deep and find out and see which kind of socio-political system is good for our future as a people. And I think we have to look at that seriously and then see how we can research more and then bring all on board. Because once you are born in a community, irrespective of whatever, the ultimate is the well-being and the welfare and the progress of the society.
Many African and Pan-Africanists have already started to look at Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed in image of Kwame Nkrumah because of his energy, to unite the Horn of Africa. And what is your comment on this?
Yes, I must say I admire Prime Minister Abiy so much. He's an excellent leader. He's a redemptive leader. He is a leader who has the nation at heart. And to demonstrate that, he went to the battlefield. How many leaders in Africa would like to go to the battlefield because they want to stabilize Ethiopia, a country? For me, he is following the footsteps of Kwame Nkrumah, and all Pan-Africanists in Africa and in the diaspora are supporting him. And we stand by Prime Minister Abiy, because we know that Prime Minister Abiy has a vision for Africa. Prime Minister Abiy has a foresight. Prime Minister Abiy is ready to sacrifice his life for the future generation. Prime Minister Abiy is the type of leader that we want. Prime Minister Abiy is a reincarnate of Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Prime Minister Abiy is a reincarnate of Patrice Lumumba. Prime Minister Abiy is a reincarnate of Samora Machel. Prime Minister Abiy is a reincarnate of Chris Hani, Steve Biko, Ahmed Seketure. Prime Minister Abiy is the leader, and we fully support him because he has demonstrated beyond all reasonable doubt. He's demonstrated that he puts the people first before himself. And these are the type of leaders that we want in Africa and who we all have to encourage and respect and defend and protect. His vision to continue with the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam I don't think Prime Minister Abe is only thinking about Ethiopia, but in the future to also distribute power to neighboring countries, neighboring states. And so the fight against, any fight against Prime Minister Abe is a fight against African. It's a fight against all Africans. It's a fight against the future of Africa. And he's a leader we respect so much, and we salute him. And we say he should go ahead because we have identified a leader. We thought all was lost. But with what Prime Minister Abe is doing by walking the talk, there's hope.
I think media has a greater responsibility and role in promoting the continent and reminding the current generation the legacy of people like Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and so on and so forth, and also promoting the current leaders like Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and others, of course. So what do you say about the role of media in this regard?
Yes, we have the media who are Pan-African and progressive in nature. We have some other media houses who are working against the interest of Africa. And so it is time for us to begin to identify media houses who are working in favor of Africa. The media is very important tool. It's a very important tool to project what we want in the future. The media has a role to protect Prime Minister Abe. The minister has a role to project positive things, constructive things about Ethiopia, not things that will work against the interests of Ethiopia and Africa, not things that will work in favor of neo-colonialism and the imperial forces. No. Any media who works against the basic interests of Africa, any media who fights against finding solution to the problems of Africa like Abe is doing, is a sellout media. It's a neo-colonial media. It's a media that should not be entertained and encouraged. And we know, we listen, we watch TVs, we listen to what individual journalists do. Any journalist who does his work properly, work to honor and protect basic human rights of man in Africa. And if you do anything against that, then you are not qualified and fit to be a journalist. You are worse than a weapon. You are worse than a dynamite. And so we encourage all progressive media houses in Africa to team up and defend and protect Africa. Because the only way out is left for the progressive media houses in Africa to work as your station is doing. Your station is a proud station. Your station is a station that is working towards the prosperity, advancement, and future of Africa. We want many other stations to do the same and not work in favor of the forces against the prosperous future of Africa.
And let us also raise some points in connection with the economy of our continent. The leaders of the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, agreed to impose sanctions on Mali. And this is in connection with the military rulers' failure to swiftly reinstate civilian rule. And what is your comment on this, Dr. Bejamin?
It is a very sad situation in Mali. I strongly believe that the solution to the Malian question lies with the Malian people. And we should go back. What led to the military taking over in Mali? There was a constitutional coup. there was a forceful takeover of the country through constitutional means. And when that happened, what did ECOWAS do? So do we want to say that when it comes to civilian governance system, it is well with ECOWAS? And when it comes to the intervention by military, it is bad with ECOWAS? Well, we do not support military takeovers, but we think the outpour of people on the streets in Bamako through the extension of the presidency of the president then through constitutional means was something that didn't go down well with the people. And the people expressed it in public. And so I think ECOWAS must relax its sanctions on Mali and then send a team to go and engage and dialogue with the current administration and then see how they can have a roadmap, a very serious roadmap, and then work towards that roadmap. Because to impose sanctions, you are imposing sanctions. The sanctions may not hit the leaders or the heads of the government now. It will go a long way to affect the civilians, to go a long way to affect the people themselves. And so this is a matter that has to be done with a very tactful, strategic, scientific approach, where all parties will come to understand and say that, hey, we want the people to decide. We want the people to decide. And we should always look at the causes of all what happened, the genesis of all these things. And so when it is a constitutional regime, we shouldn't encourage unless there are emergency situations beyond repairs. Like, for instance, you have a situation that it is a threat to national security.
How should also Africa as a continent strengthen its economic development to free itself from Western dependence? Because it is obvious that many African countries are suffering from, Western pressure, economic sanction, and some of African countries are again waiting for Western aids. And how the continent free itself from such kinds of pressures?
Well, what we have to do, the only way out for Africa to be self-reliant economically is to unite. First of all, we need to unite. We need to, the African Continental Free Trade Area need to be owned by Africans. It should be flexible enough to grow the industries in Africa. The African businessmen must be empowered to take full ownership of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The mechanisms of the free trade area shouldn't be said that it favors people who are not Africans, but Africans in the diaspora and home. The only way out, if we begin to break down the barriers, the borders of Africa, and begin to encourage free movement of goods and services, the economy of Africa will grow. Employment will be open. The solution, the economic solution of Africa is within Africa. If we decide to come together, we have experts. We have experts who can sit down and map out strategies. And there are. Nkrumah even said it. We have a common currency. We have a common foreign affairs, a standing army. It will help spur industrialization in Africa. We can do it. A typical example is Prime Minister Abiy. What he's doing. The economy of Ethiopia is so wonderful. meaning that very soon Ethiopia is going to be self-reliant properly and begin to open up to the rest of Africa. We have some countries, states in Africa who are doing very well. So it means that it can be done within Africa. Why should we be dependent on outsiders too much? And depending on outsiders too much is a new type of slavery. It's a new type of slavery because without them we can survive. The hydroelectric power being built by Prime Minister Abiy is to generate power to fire agricultural industrialization. And so we can do it. We have the resources. We have the opportunities. We have the expertise. We have the competence. And what worries me so much is that what are our universities doing? People write PhDs, people write theses, people do research. Are these research work translated into practice? Should we go back and revisit research work and to transform them in the field? It will drastically reduce poverty, hunger, and diseases on the continent. Thank you.
There are also claims that many Western countries' investors come to Africa by the name of investment and but loot natural resources of the continent. And the question is why Africa is always failed to utilize its own resources, natural resources by its own.
It is part of an imperialism design, a neo-colonial design. And how do they go about it? They make sure that they put in leadership who work to their interests and who will not want to encourage industrialization, who will not want to encourage the translating raw materials into finished goods, and for Africa to depend on them. And how do they do that? Many of our leaders encourage our resources to be taken out of Africa, to be put into finished goods and brought back to Africa. So the whole of Africa turns out to be a supermarket. And that mustn't be encouraged. And it is leadership. It is leadership. A typical example is that we had Kwame Nkrumah, who built so many industries in Ghana. Built so many industries. And today, those industries would have gone far to help reduce unemployment in Africa. Because all the industries Nkrumah built were Pan-African related industries. But because the neo-colonial forces knew that should Africa become economically independent, they will have nowhere to tap her resources. They made sure they overthrew a visionary leader. Can we say there are such plans towards Prime Minister Abiy? Can we say that? Because he is trying to transform his society. And so the question of African raw materials and mineral resources sent outside boils down to leadership. If you have a foresighted leader, a visionary leader, a redemptive leader who thinks about the people, there are some contracts, there are some agreements with big conglomerates which will not be accepted. Because once you accept some contracts with conglomerates, you are selling the sovereignty of the state. You are selling the sovereignty of the people.
Let me also forward this question, Dr. Benjamin. Many Africans hope that effective implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area that will help the continent to become economically self-dependent. And do you think this will be realized?
Whether it will be realized would depend on the leadership of the free trade area. The contracts within the continent vis-a-vis the protocol arrangements will have to favor African businessmen home and in the diaspora. If we allow the free trade area to be owned, properly owned by Africans home and in the diaspora, it will work. But if we do not allow that, it will become a neo-colonial institution serving the interest of imperial powers. Look, I am taking this opportunity to call on our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. They have expertise, they have competence, they have the wealth, they have money. They should come into Africa and look at the infrastructure of Africa. Look at businesses in Africa and follow all the requirements of the free trade area and let them be denied. And if they are denied, Pan-African organization, especially the media, should take the Continental Free Trade Area on. The leadership is very important. If you have a chairperson at the African Union who thinks about the people, they can direct the free trade area to serve the interest of Africans. And that is key. Because the chairperson of the African Union is working with all African heads of states. And they are working through the protocol systems through the African Continental Free Trade Area. And they must all understand that the resources of Africa belongs to Africa. And for that matter, those who are supposed to be given the priority to do business are the African businessmen home and in the diaspora. And when the African businessmen home and in the diaspora do business, they should do business with the mind of creating employment for the youth. Because Africa has the youngest population in the world. And many of them go risking their lives through the Mediterranean, the deserts, into Europe, and they die on the way, looking for greener pastures. But the greener pastures are in Africa. The greener pastures is here in Africa. Congo alone is enough to provide jobs for the youth of Africa. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, if you look at the Congo Basin, to also build an hydroelectric power there, can power the whole of Africa through industrialization, which would then create jobs for our people and even ensure a living wage.
There is also fear. Some economic experts fear that serious challenges would face Africa in implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area under the current circumstances. And do you share this claim?
I mean, it is true observation. It is true observation and what they have seen. They've made analysis. And because they've made analysis and done some projections with regard to whatever pertains within the Continental Free Trade Area, they are saying so. That has to be reversed immediately. And whatever positive action has to be taken must be taken, especially by the key players of the Continental Free Trade Area.
The Ethiopian government has a plan to economically integrate the Horn of Africa and then expand this trend to the continental level. And my question is, what challenges do you expect in realizing this initiative?
The challenge that I see is that The external forces will do everything to fight the leadership of Ethiopia. And because the external forces will do everything to fight the leadership of Ethiopia, not for the leadership to realize their dream, it now borders on the people of Africa and Ethiopia to stand and protect the leadership. Also, the progressive Pan-African media houses will have to rally around the leadership of Ethiopia. Because we have learned lesson. Anytime leaders come up with good plans, good vision for the continent and their people, their lives are cut short. And so this is the challenge. And there are some leaders as well in Africa who may be serving the interest of imperialism. You will have to be in position to know which leaders to dialogue and to create allies to realize this dream.
Let me forward my final question to you, Dr. Benjamin. Ethiopia is among countries making significant economic gains every year. This is from remittance, and 1 million diaspora is coming home following Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed's call. And what role should the diaspora play in maximizing this contribution, in your opinion? Yes,
I congratulate the Prime Minister Abiy's initiative and effort for opening the door for the diasporans to come. But what the diaspora must do is that they shouldn't just come into Ethiopia. They should come into Ethiopia with a plan. They should come into Ethiopia with a strategic plan to sit with key players in Ethiopia. They should come into Ethiopia with expertise. They should come into Ethiopia with competence and with wealth. They should come into Ethiopia with intelligence to help build whatever has been started, for it to be sustained and spread all over the African continent. Because our people have suffered too much and are tired of poverty, hunger, and diseases. And so they should come in their numbers, and they should know they are coming home. Nobody will come and build Africa for them. They have to come home and team up with the government of Ethiopia to help build Ethiopia in Africa. We are proud, and they should re-echo the pride of Ethiopia, because Ethiopia has never been colonized, and the whole of Africa will take our pride in that. Finally, if you have any message to my audience, you are welcome. Thank you very much, audience. I'm glad engaging you this afternoon, and I want to say continue to patronize this station, because it is a progressive Pan-African station, and they are doing a very great job. And it is only true, this is the role they are also playing towards the unification, integration, and towards the Africa that we want. And so I encourage all of you to continue to patronize Ubuntu. Together we shall win. And congratulations and Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I'm waiting for the Ethiopian New Year as well. That is the African New Year, which must be celebrated all over Africa. Thank you. Dr. Bejamin Anyagree, immediate executive director of Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute. Thank you for your fruitful insight and analysis. We appreciate. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great. We shall overcome, and we are behind you. Thank you. And greetings to the Prime Minister Abiy and his government. So we've discussed some economic and political issues with Dr. Bejamin Anyagree from Ghana. This is all about our discussion for today. Till next edition, goodbye.